Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out. Click subscribe to show your support. And if you're a YouTube listener, click the bell to enable notifications so they tell you every time a new episode goes up. Are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get into storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in your shout-outs like my buddy John down in Texas. John, always sending lots of love your way. Then check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. $15 a month contributors co-host an episode with me, one of our live shows. Our $7.50 a month contributors get entered into a drawing to do just the same. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you've got questions, comments, something you'd like for us to touch on a future episode, give us a shout at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160, and we will get to that in a future episode. Also, don't forget to check out the homepage of the Pro Wrestling Podcast, where you can find all of our content at frowrestling.com. Somber week in the world of professional wrestling. As many people know, the absolutely tragic passing of what I consider to be an absolute legend in the business. Some people often use that term for the people who spend their entire career in the WWE, or back in the day, WCW, the NWA. But I don't know if some people realize just the insane contributions that some of these people in some of these other companies have made and what they've done in their careers. Jay Briscoe, going over 20 years, being at the very first Ring of Honor show ever, wrestling, becoming the most recently winning the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship with his brother Mark Briscoe for the 13th time. For those who have been hiding under a rock or something, not hearing of the horrible, tragic loss of Jay Briscoe at the age of 38 due to a vehicular accident in Delaware. Just horrible stuff. And I've seen such an outpouring of respect, love, and appreciation from essentially everybody in the professional wrestling industry. And let's be honest, there's not a lot of guys who are just seem to be universally appreciated. And what we're seeing in the wake of this horrible tragedy is that there are just so many people who absolutely just are feeling that pain. And I can't imagine, obviously our thoughts, well wishes, and prayers are with his family. Horrible way to lose such an incredible talent, but just a horrible way to lose such an incredible human being. His daughters, 9 and 12 years old, also were in the car and were taken to the hospital. One of them apparently had to go into surgery. Their mother put out online and was asking for prayers, which of course, please send all the prayers in the world for these young ladies to recover quickly. He really did it all in his Ring of Honor career. Not that was the only place he went, but he had won the Ring of Honor World Championship twice, 13-time tag team champion, won the 6-man tag team championships with his brother and Bubba Ray Dudley, or Bully Ray. Really just, he was a pillar of Ring of Honor. And I'm not talking about today's Ring of Honor that is a shell of what it was when it was created. I'm talking about the entirety of Ring of Honor, the Samoa Joe years, the AJ Styles, Bryan Danielson, the Christopher Daniels, like all that is just when it was his absolute best. Tyler Black, who is now Seth Rollins, people like that, Kevin Steen, who's now Kevin Owens, El Generico, and all of those guys putting their condolences out online. It really, it just feels so deep. Not that any time we lose anybody in the professional wrestling industry isn't emotional, but this one really hit hard. This is not one of those things where it was, an aging veteran who had some horrible thing that they, didn't take care of themselves or anything. This is a premier athlete in the prime of his career and really getting some of the best exposure he'd had throughout his entire career recently. When Ring of Honor closed up its shop for a few months there and it went inactive before Tony Khan purchased the company, he had branched out with his brother into the NWA, had great success there, had a series of matches with like the Rock and Roll Express. And in the last couple of years, they've had things with the Young Bucks. They've been to Impact Wrestling. They've made appearances for GCW and various other promotions. It's just been a great ride with the tag team. I feel for his brother. I'm sure there's some uncertainty in his mind about where he goes from here. I pray that he still has a passion for the business and wants to keep doing this for himself and maybe a little piece of it in honor of his brother. I do appreciate the fact that there's a fundraising site that was established to try to help the family through Give Send Go, which had a goal of $50,000, and absolute kudos to some of the people who have just been so helpful with that. I saw that Kevin Owens had donated $10,000 to the fund, and it's not just him. It's literally like a who's who of people donating. Chris Jericho, Shawn Spears, the Young Bucks, Jim Cornette donating, Brian Last, the guy who is the producer that's on Cornette's shows, the Corny Drive-Thru and whatnot. Cassie Lee, Simon Miller, the people from Pro Wrestling Tees, Brian Alvarez. Like, there's just all these people right now. Last I saw, there was an article on Wrestling Inc. that said it was like $106,000 already been raised, that they would not be surprised if it went up over $200,000, which I think is fantastic. Help the family in this really just absolutely terrible time, and just sad for the entire wrestling community. So, as I said at the beginning, prayers for the family, prayers for Jay, and what a horrible loss for the professional wrestling industry. Trying to steer slightly away from the somber note, because we could go on that for a very long time, because he's clearly somebody who deserves that conversation. Looking at some of the interesting things, segueing in what is kind of interesting the most to me this past year has been all the cross promotional stuff, and it doesn't matter what show you're talking about. Could be Forbidden Door. You could go back to Ric Flair's last match, which brought talents from all over, including the Briscoes. One of the people who's been looking at the cross-promotional conversation lately has been Will Ospreay, performer for New Japan Pro Wrestling, incredibly talented, and he's been very vocal about wanting to walk through that forbidden door and have certain matches with certain people. He mentions often people like Bryan Danielson, Adam Page, stuff like that, but there is somebody in WWE that he really would like to face, and that would be Seth Rollins. He was having a discussion on the Sessions podcast, and he made it very clear that he knew Seth before he was Seth. He knew him when he was Tyler Black, and he thought he was a great wrestler in Ring of Honor. He thinks he's still a great wrestler, and if there's a chance of making it work, he would absolutely love to make it work. And I agree with that. And I think, in 2023, if indeed Triple H is going to be staying in control of the creative end of the business, I think it would be a fantastic opportunity to really spread their wings a bit. And let's be honest. I mean, here's what a lot of people in AEW, New Japan, Impact, all of them don't really want to hear. Yes, I get WWE has a performance center. Okay, I preface by saying that, and I know they like homegrown talent. But you can't argue with the experience level that comes from some of these people who've been everywhere else in the world. And what really is going on right now, and if you don't believe me, let's stick with the Ring of Honor conversation. Kevin Owens, El Generico, now Sami Zayn, Tyler Black, Bryan Danielson. It's like a who's who. Samoa Joe. All these guys that have gone through WWE all started in Ring of Honor. And the reason they got to WWE is because WWE is great at poaching talent from incredible organizations. Should WWE get the gumption to go ahead and walk through that forbidden door a little bit and set up some working arrangements with some of these companies, I would not be surprised to see them start poaching talent from almost anywhere. The only people who might be able to outbid them for talent is AEW because of Tony Khan. I don't think you're going to see a huge bidding war between New Japan Pro Wrestling and WWE. WWE can outbid them every single time, and I don't necessarily think that's going to happen because a lot of the New Japan Pro wrestlers are very loyal to the company. But I would love to see some of this cross-promotional stuff, and I'd love to see Will Ospreay and Seth Rollins get in the ring. I think that would be an absolutely fantastic match. In an age where we worry about 5-star matches, that has 5-star written all over it. So we'll have to see how things play out in the next few months. I think we'll get some real great perspective at the Royal Rumble when we find out whether or not we're seeing any Forbidden Door entrants. If we see Kairi Sane walk out for the Women's Royal Rumble, I can't even imagine a speculation about Sasha Banks if that happens. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Let's shift gears a little bit. Dax Harwood doing the podcast, and sharing some information on the FTR with Dax podcast. Talked about Vince McMahon coming back to WWE, and he shared a story about when they went out and they had a match with the New Day to win the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. When they came to the back, Vince seemed to be, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he seemed to be very excited about everything the New Day did. And then when it got to the Revival, now FTR, he had a conversation with him, and he said something that, like, Vince said something to the effect of, everyone tells him that you guys are the next great tag team. Everybody tells me you're the next Arn and Tully. Well, that's your problem. You're the next Arn and Tully. You're just great wrestlers. That's all. And then he walked away, and it came across so offensively to Hardwood that it really would put a damper on him wanting to go back to WWE if he's going to indeed be in charge. I can't emphasize enough how much I don't want Vince in charge of creative. Triple H has a mind for the business that I don't know if we've ever seen from anybody. And there's a chance here for FTR to go back and finish things in WWE the way they probably would have liked to, because I think Triple H does respect tag team wrestling. And if you have any questions about that, look at what the Usos, the New Day, and some of the other teams over the last couple of years, rated RKO was an attraction. People wanted to see that. The Brawling Brutes and people like that. They've had such a bigger commitment to tag team wrestling the last few years. I think they would be great going back there. But you got to have the security that Vince isn't going to be in any way disrespectful either if he's going to have any chance to be in charge of creative. More conversation this week. Look, we're heading into WrestleMania season. This is one of the news stories that I am absolutely loving. When you're having a conversation with certain wrestlers, you have to worry if they're going to let the cat out of the bag on future things. But on the Battleground podcast, Thursday's show, they're having a conversation with Gunther, who is the WWE Intercontinental Champion. And he was asked by the host of the shows if he'd like to have a match with Brock Lesnar in 2023. And he was all in. Now, that has already been rumored for quite some time, Gunther versus Brock Lesnar. But to hear him vocalize that on a podcast makes me feel like this is already on the books, that Brock is probably already getting geared up for that. I don't know how you bring him back to TV and put him in Gunther's way, but I think this is a great idea. And truth be told, that Intercontinental Championship has often been used to elevate talent. I would love to see that championship be used to take Gunther and strategically position him to be a Universal Championship contender very soon. I really think that's a great way to do things. So we'll have to wait and see, but I love that we have that on the record that he wants Lesnar. He'd love to have a match with Lesnar. I think that would be such a hard-hitting and reals type of, just a genuine, authentic feeling type of match. I think that's something fans would absolutely love. Some somber news in WWE today. Devon Dudley apparently has wrapped up his time with WWE. Wrestling Inc. was reporting earlier that he's done with NXT. He's leaving WWE. Many people may know last month he was supposed to appear at a benefit that was a tribute show to ECW alumni, and Bruce Pritchard didn't want him to go. He vetoed his idea. And then a little later, I guess he was going to go anyways, and it got back to Triple H, and Triple H also didn't approve it. And there was some bad blood. Basically, if he was going to do it, then he was going to come back and have no job. And so now you fast forward a month and a half, and he doesn't have a job. He's leaving WWE. And I suspect he's leaving on somewhat good terms. I hope he's leaving on good terms. But it's really a shame that we even have to, think about that with everything he's done for the business over the years, that something as simple as an inconsequential, ECW alumni show could bring his tenure in the company to a close, especially when he's not an on-air televised talent. I mean, let's be honest. Let's just be fair. Ric Flair's last match, I get it. It's Ric Flair's last match. But the ECW fans, the Dudleys, are like, they're deities. They're gods. And Jeff Jarrett was still a WWE contracted talent and was allowed to go into that Ric Flair's last match. Why would you give Devon Dudley a hard time about going to this show that probably nobody listening to my show even saw? Kind of a shame to see the things from it. And now maybe they're not connected at all. Maybe they have nothing to do with one another, but it just seems awful coincidental that took place only a month ago, and suddenly we're seeing this happen. So he's leaving. Let's talk about people possibly coming. Matt Cardona filed for the trademark to his Zack Ryder name. Now, we don't know if that means he's looking to use that on the independent scene, or he's just locking it up so WWE can't lock it up if he decides to go back. There are rumors that he may be coming back for the Rumble. We'll have to wait and see, but it is curious. He's always been so anti-Zack Ryder ever again in the future in all his interviews. To suddenly copyright that seems very strange to me. The only thing I could think of is if he was trying to do some kind of merchandise thing with like Pro Wrestling Tees or something. And what was WWE thinking, giving up the trademark on things like that? Because that's a character they put a lot of time and energy into. You'd think they would have hung on to it, but apparently not. We do know that Chelsea Green is signed with WWE, just hasn't been brought back to TV yet. Maybe they're waiting till after the Rumble, or maybe she's a return at the Rumble and he's a surprise. Maybe they come back together. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But there's a lot that could happen there. Talk about people leaving. Tajiri. It looks like his career is coming to an end. He wrestled with All Japan Pro Wrestling for several years, and he's now in, I hope I'm not butchering this, Kyushu Pro Wrestling, another company in Japan, and it looks like this is going to be his last go-around. He's 52 years old. I'll paraphrase again that there was a press conference where they introduced him, and he just recently started working with them at the beginning of this year, and he won their championship, their world championship, and he basically made it clear he was there that he wants to be the champion and have great matches, or I think he said hot matches, and he wants to nurture the younger generation, is what he said at the press conference, and that's awesome. Hopefully he, obviously it's a smaller promotion. A lot of us here in the States probably won't get to see his last go around as an in-ring talent. Such a sad year in terms of Japanese legends. When you have the loss of Inoki, you see Muda getting prepared to retire. Now you've got Tajiri possibly walking out the door. Tough for Japanese wrestling fans. The guy who's not going anywhere, Hiroshi Tanahashi, he put out that he signed his new contract with New Japan, so he's not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. The only problem with that is that tells me he's not going to AEW, and he may never get a chance in a WWE ring. What a shame for such an incredibly talented guy. Some heel turn on AEW on Dynamite. Saraya and Toni Storm jumping Willow Nightingale after their match. Just a lot of heel behavior throughout the match. Clearly setting up a tag team match with Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale. I have no problem with this because let's be honest, they don't script their promos. You know what I mean? In AEW. So the character that she's been portraying has been kind of a heel the whole time anyways. Kind of one of those it's all about me type of people. And oddly, it makes Britt Baker seem like the babyface, which is strange also. Coming out of that feud, and you really thought that Hiraki Shida was going to be the one who turned heel, and now it's not. It's going to be her and Toni Storm. It's strange booking, but it makes sense to me too, just because of the reaction the fans have been giving to her. So hopefully this works out for her. Saraya, I think she's doing just fine in her in-ring work. I just think the fans just aren't into it for whatever reason. So we'll have to see how this plays out over time. And the backstage word on Cody Rhodes, they announced that he's officially in the Rumble. And what I don't care about that. I like the subtle things. WrestleVotes put out on Twitter why WWE went forward with putting Rhodes' entry into the Rumble in out there and for the public and not using it as a surprise. But they quoted as saying it's twofold, one being that nearly everyone expected it to happen already, and two, sources state they are more than pleased with other surprises that are lined up. To me, that is incredibly interesting. Who else could they have that they're more satisfied with than the Cody Rhodes pop that they're going to get? So I'm thrilled. I'm glad he's definitely in the Rumble. And if we're being honest, we'll run down real quick. The men's Royal Rumble match odds. Cody Rhodes is the -160 favorite to win, a 5-8 favorite. Sami Zayn is the second highest on the list, and then is The Rock at +400. After that, it's like a who's who of like the guys who are at the top of the card, but probably not going to win. Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, Riddle. Riddle on the list at a +2,000. Gunther +2,200. Theory +2,500. AJ Styles +2,500. I don't think he'll even be in the match because of his ankle injury. And then the women's Rumble match, Rhea Ripley still the odds-on favorite. 1-to-1 odds. Her odds have increased significantly. She's the +100 favorite. Becky Lynch +250. Charlotte Flair +400. Bayley +500. Alexa Bliss +800. But the interesting one for me there, if you go further down the page, Sasha Banks is still listed as a possible winner at +2,500, which you say that's some really terrible odds. But when you think about it, that's the same odds that WWE could pull a swerve and throw Theory in there or Gunther or something like that, which I would have no problem seeing Gunther in a major, championship opportunity at WrestleMania. Maybe not this year, next year is more likely, but I'm just saying it's not as ludicrous to say that Sasha could come back and perform at the Rumble. I'm still holding out hope that she is signed to WWE and on loan to New Japan, and that somehow they're going to walk through that forbidden door and we're going to see Kairi Sane at the Royal Rumble. I really am. I'm praying for that. I don't expect it to happen. I doubt it's going to happen. Let me be very clear, because I have people who give me comments and are like, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying my fantasy booking brain would love to see it happen. And the other odds that we're going to just run over real quick, NXT Vengeance Day betting odds. The championship match, NXT title, Braun Breaker -700 favorite over Grayson Waller. The women's championship match, Roxanne Perez a -1200 favorite. She's the biggest favorite of the night over JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. The North American Championship, it looks like Dijak is the odds-on favorite to take the championship. And the Tag Team Championship, Gallus is predicted to walk away with the NXT Tag Team Championship, taking it from the New Day. Would not surprise me. I think it would be a good way to end the show and a great way to really solidify them as the top team in the promotion. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We'll run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always goes out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing any music or sound we use in our shows. Today's show is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new frame to family game night. It's very easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen to pick up your copy today. And if you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs. As Fro Life educational planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro. Thank you so much for taking some time with us tonight. Until next time, take care, everyone, and have a great night, and look forward to that Raw 30th anniversary. Should have a lot of surprises on that show. Take care. Have a good one.